looking at the Annunciation triptych, or also known as the Merode altarpiece, which is currently held in Metropolitan Museum of Art in Upper Manhattan.
The date that this piece was made was 1427 to 1432 century, and the artist, at first, people thought it was Robert Campin, but later on was found out that it was actually the workshop of Robert Campin.
And Robert Campin, he was a famous painter in Tournai. He had a lot of apprentices, a large workshop.
Also, this is made out of wood, but oil paint on wood. But compared to the Italian Renaissance, they didn't have the oil paint yet. But during this Renaissance, they did have oil paint.
Now, the artist, this was located in southern Netherlands, and his intentions with this were for the mill first painting. He hoped that someone would buy it. But since that didn't happen, the left and right paintings were made after, and this was a bit unusual because normally altarpieces were, made with the intention of being an altar. He, on the other hand, didn't have this intention.
For the central scene, it looks like there is a living room of someone living in Southern Europe. And there's a lot of detail, like since you're using oil paint, we could put the shine on the nails on the doors and the shadows showing the rust of the doors.
And this rust shows the age of the doors, and in the background there is a man on horseback. And what's interesting is they had an interest in light, so the uses of oil paint allowed them to create texture and really create contrast with everything and make it seem realistic. And this scene of the Annunciation taking place in the household makes these figures closer to us, makes our prayers more profound. It brings the viewer closer to God.
Yes, and compared to the Italian Renaissance, they're quite the opposite because we used rational space, interest in human anatomy, and didn't really want to bring the viewer closer to the figures.
And what's odd about this is that the space of the room doesn't really make sense because the perspective hasn't really been put into place yet. It's not mathematically accurate. The table is double perspective, and it's a telescoping that brings the viewer in, which makes the room available.
Yeah, and due to the certain piece not making sense, we didn't use the linear perspective that was the intro much later on.
Yeah, it's not like any other pieces like that Eisenheim altarpiece, the Royal Portal. No, this is something different.
Yes, and moving on to the left scene, which shows the donors or the people that commissioned this art piece is kneeling down, and the patrons are actually Peter and his wife.
They're in a walled garden, and this refers to Mary's virginity. Now, the centerpiece, though, on the left we see Gabriel, and on the right, Mary. This is modern context. It's not meant to sequelize a scene, but to make them closer to us, to make the prayer more intimate.
And it does look like Gabriel appears to Mary, telling her that she will give birth to Christ.
And the drapery has sharp folds, it falls on the floor and obscures the body. There's the shiny pot, which symbolizes Mary's purity, and many things in the room have to do with incarnation.
There's a small figure, looks like, on the top left of the centerpiece that looks like it's holding a cross coming towards Mary.
This painting this altar would have been seen multiple times. It could fold and it would be normally placed in churches, but this calls to be put in households. And this was something sacred. Since it was able to fold and be transported, it was something people could see commonly.
The dimensions of this piece, to first start off with the open, is 25 by 46 inches. But then the central panel is 25 1/4 by 24 and 7/8 inches. Then each wing is the same one, which is 25 and 3/8 by 10 and 3/4 inches. On the right wing is showing Joseph, who is bothered to the Virgin, works in his shop drilling holes in the board. The mousetraps on the bench in his shop, including in the shop window opening onto the street, are thought to be allude to references in the writings of St. Augustine, identifying the cross as the devil's mousetrap.
Annunciation triptych was really an aid to private devotion.